Who had the fatal confrontation with Maria Lauterbach? Was it Cesar Lorian or his wife, Christina? It's the question Lorian's attorney posed today on this first day of testimony in the murder trial. The one thing that is a constant reminder to us, as graphic as it may be, this blood stain. This tells the tale of what happened the night that Landon Blackley and Andrew Kirby lost their lives here. I'm here at the largest air show of the Carolinas, and people are already starting to pour in. Maybe it's because of this absolutely gorgeous weather we're having. Maybe it's because the Blue Angels are going to be performing, or maybe it's because after this year, this air show is going to go on a biannual schedule. We do have some breaking news now. Pitt County investigators are at the scene of another baby death. Authorities say parents of the baby, who is almost 2 months old, called 911 Thursday afternoon. The scene is at DNN Edwards Estates off of Highway 33. The lawyer for a suspended ECU student charged with killing a former ECU student Monday claims his client was the victim of an attack before that shooting.
Well, let's make sure it's fair, don't you think?
I really don't think it was fair, but you know what? I'll do whatever it takes for the kids of Eastern Carolina.
She just knew that nobody in Eastern North Carolina, nobody on TV could take the place of Marvin Doherty. So it was a little bit easier for you to be able to step into my shoes than to me step into Marvin's shoes.
That's true, and I'll probably be better than you. I'm just kidding.
That's
not true.
Ernest Road remains in the Pitt County Detention Center under a $100,000 bond after the shooting that took place here last night. Now, officers say gunshots rang out just after 9 o'clock here in the area of West 5th Street. I spoke to the owner here of the King's Convenience Mart.
Lower 90s early next week. Christine?
The cool down is 90. Okay, Marvin, thanks. Well, new claims for unemployment benefits jumped last week to their highest level in about half a year. And there is more bad news regarding our economy. At this particular precinct, which is actually the largest in Greenville, as of this afternoon, they've already had about 300 voters. And I can tell you just within the past 20 minutes, I've seen dozens more coming through the doors. Former Onslow County Sheriff's deputy is wanted on a sex-related charge. Eddie Negron is wanted by the Jacksonville Police Department on outstanding warrants for an alleged incident involving a minor. One police department in the East is dealing with the loss of one of their longest and oldest working canine officers. He died Wednesday after a short bout with cancer and took a little stroll through his neighborhood, stopping traffic when he went across the street. But not to worry, George is now back home with his owner in his own backyard. It's a little bit different than, losing the dog.
I think so.
Here in Eastern Carolina, we're so fortunate to be surrounded by so much water. So obviously people are going to be out in the elements this time of year. And you may actually grab the sunscreen before you head out the door. And you may not know it, but you're not only saving your skin, you could be saving your life.
This was a malignant melanoma in 1996.
For Teresa Smith, these scars represent her many years growing up in the Carolina sun.
We had baby oil. That's just cake on the baby oil and tan. And I tanned. I always had a good tan.
But the combination of her fair skin and all of those tans while growing up on Topsail Beach brought her to a very scary place at the young age of 21.
My first one was a fever blister that came up on my lip, and it kept growing. And after about a week, my lip kind of felt numb.
That blister turned out to be cancerous.
And I was young, single, and scared.
24 malignant melanomas, 2 squamous cells, 5 skin grafts, and numerous basal cell carcinomas later. Today, Smith says she still suffers from her sun exposure.
I've had 2 melanomas removed a month ago.
She now works for dermatologist Dr. Eric Howell, preaching prevention and early detection.
And I do use my hands sometimes because sometimes you can feel these areas before you can actually see them.
On this day, Dr. Howell agrees to examine my skin for signs of sun damage.
And you have a little bit of sun freckling here on across the forehead and a little bit on the cheeks.
Inch by inch, he looks for abnormalities.
So we're looking for any oddly shaped moles or any rough spots that may be signs of an early precancerous type change.
My exam checks out to be just fine, but I'm able to tan rather easily and I use sunscreen. 2 things Dr. Howell says makes me less predisposed to skin cancer. And speaking of sunscreen, lately it seems things have gotten a little confusing.
So a sunscreen with an SPF 15 may help you prevent from burning, but it doesn't tell you anything about how well that sunscreen is going to prevent wrinkles and other kinds of sun damage, including skin cancer.
And a new report from the Environmental Working Group actually points to some chemicals used in popular sunscreens, specifically oxybenzone, as damaging to a person's health.
Well, we still don't have enough data to say that oxybenzone or any of the other chemicals truly cause cancers. The concern is that they may be absorbed into your bloodstream and that they may promote internal types of cancers.
But Howell and even the lead author of that report say it's still safer to use sunscreen than nothing at all. It's hard to believe that something as simple as sunscreen can be a lifesaver. But take it from those who've had skin cancer. They say sunscreen can make the difference between life or death.
I've had one family member to die of squamous cell carcinoma. And I've also known 3 other people to die from squamous cell. These are skin cancers that is nothing to play with.
And taking a look at some sunscreen tips for you, Dr. Howell says it's best to use an SPF of 30. Also, make sure you choose a broad spectrum. This is UVA as well as UVB. Make sure you reapply every 1 to 2 hours. And if you do have sensitive skin, or if you're concerned about the oxybenzone, you can use a titanium dioxide sunscreen. And, you can also stay out of the sun from the hours of noon to 4 p.m. He says the other important thing that you can do is check your own skin. See if there's anything that's out of place. Check those moles. And if you do see something abnormal, make sure to call a dermatologist.
When you have some of the problems that I've got, you just have to learn different ways to accomplish the task.
These are the hands of someone affected by Agent Orange. And these are the feet. But this isn't just one person. And neither of them were alive when the Vietnam War was going on. Yet both say they suffer from the side effects. Jerry and Josh Avery are the son and grandson of a Vietnam veteran the government says was exposed to the toxic chemical. Jerry was conceived after his father got back from war, unaware of his exposure until Jerry was born with a bilateral cleft palate, deformities, and without tear ducts, all symptoms of Agent Orange.
Over time, it's just part of life. It's part of my life, and it's part of what I have to do.
Jerry's father stayed in the Navy for 20 years to, in part, help pay for Jerry's 30 surgeries. It wasn't until after the birth of his son, Josh, that Jerry found out his father's exposure to Agent Orange had given him a hereditary gene that would pass on the deformities. Jerry Avery says this situation at times has made him feel like he's alone in a field, but he says his main weapon of defense has been positivity.
I'm not trying to find blame. I'm not trying to point fingers. But the reality of our society and our world is that decisions have been made many years ago to do something that will forever impact our country and our world and the citizens that live within that world, and we have to deal with it.
They pick on me, but I just don't do nothing to them.
Dealing with it is a pretty tough thing for this 11-year-old, not only emotionally, but physically, too. Josh was born with all the deformities his dad suffered, as well as kidney and bladder troubles. So when it comes to treatment for his son, he's familiar.
You're not the first one that's ever had to do this. You won't be the last. I've been there and I've done it, and I'll be here with you as you go through it.
Problem is, finding the money to pay for the treatment is a bit tricky. Josh, who's already had 12 surgeries, will need about double that until his healing is complete. Medicaid has paid for much of Josh's surgery thus far, but it's since run out. And with a price tag of $250,000 a year, paying even 20% through medical benefits is way out of the Avery's budget. And he's looking to the government to step up.
I don't want monetary benefits. I'm not after that. All I want to be able to do is to take care of him and get him the medical treatment that he needs.
There is nothing bad about this job, and this is not a job, this is a career.
Gary Evans and Lori Clark are just a few of the dedicated staff at the Linwood Zoo in Jacksonville. With patience and guidance, they're going to show me what it's like to be a zookeeper.
Today we're going to do everything from feeding, watering. We may even do the do, as we like to call it out here.
Oh boy, that's going to be interesting. We're starting off easy. My first task, meal preparation.
Right now, I am taking grapes off of the stem so that I can feed them to the animals. I soon found out feeding the animals would be the easiest part. The hardest part is actually getting the food to them.
You're going to have to work with this a little bit.
Okay.
It's easy.
Okay. Oh, wow, A+ already. This really is harder than it looks. Most physical labor anybody's ever seen me do. Oh. Are we really going a third of a mile? Oh my God, hold on. With a few breaks in between and some determination. No, I'm doing this. We press on. Being a zookeeper, you learn that animals are unique, like this ocelot who marks his territory with urine. Oh, I smell it.
Sends the sinuses out.
Yeah. Now that I can really take in the sights and smells of the zoo, it's back to feeding. Most of the food the animals eat is stuff you and I have every day. I decided to do a little taste testing of the biscuits for the porcupines. After feeding a few more animals, yummy, yummy, it was time to clean up what they all leave behind, if you know what I mean. Oh, that's small. Now for the moment of truth.
You did a great job, actually. And for animals, they're kind of forgiving to some extent.
Well, thank goodness for that. In Jacksonville, Christine Kennedy, WITN News.
It happened earlier this evening in Greene County, and we're continuing to gather details about what exactly happened. Dave Marcheski and Natalie Kaplan are in Greene County and join us now with what we know so far. Lenoir County Deputy Detective Alan Pearson was shot and killed on April 8th of 2009 as he and others attempted to arrest a suspect who murdered a woman the previous day. The suspect was also shot and killed. Then in December of last year, exactly 8 months later, Martin County Deputy Charlie Brown was shot and killed during a confrontation with a suspect in Williamston. Brown and others were responding to reports of a man walking down the street firing a long gun. The suspect in this case was also killed. So far this year, 98 law enforcement officers have been killed in the line of duty. In 2009, 7 officers were killed. Stay with WITN and WITN.com for updates on tonight's shooting in Greene County. We are also going to be checking back in with Dave Marcheski and Natalie Kaplan for updates throughout the entire show. Highway Patrol says the investigation in this accident is ongoing. Troopers expected to wrap up tomorrow, and that's when we could learn the fate of the driver, John Barnhill. Chief Meteorologist Marvin Doherty joins us now with the details and Advanced Viper. Marvin. And it's inspiring efforts in at least 20 other states, including ours, which is the 18th state to consider such deportation regulations. Local Latino organizations are coming together to get Arizona State Bill 1070 thrown out. Mexicana in Greenville hoped an injunction would keep the law from taking effect on Thursday. We spoke to East Carolina University professor who has studied this issue and testified before Congress. He says the bill would have a huge impact on race relations in Arizona and the country.
In general, I think it will have a short-term negative disadvantage, especially because they are going to be eliminating an important part of their labor force.
He says the Hispanic community represents 5% of the labor force and overall economy, and in tough economic times that could make a bad situation worse. Today, a federal judge blocked portions of Arizona's immigration law from taking effect tomorrow. The provisions that most angered opponents will not take effect, including sections that required officers to check a person's immigration status while enforcing other laws. And in our web poll question, we asked if you agree with the ruling. 9% of you said yes, an overwhelming 91% said no, the full law should take effect. We want to get an update now on our breaking news story out of Greene County, where a sheriff's deputy was killed in the line of duty tonight. Some children in the East are now going to be bused to school via environmentally friendly transportation. Take a look at Wilson County's newest clean fuel school bus. It's one of 6 in the state that meets 2010 emission requirements. The new buses were delivered to school districts in Wilson, Nash, Edgecombe, and Pitt counties today. So we checked this one out. Officials say it's the first of its kind in North Carolina.
It's a step in the right direction to providing a cleaner environment for everyone, for the children, because the exhaust fumes that come from school buses have been proven that they can contribute to cancer in young children.
The buses will start hitting the streets in August when school starts up again. We are continuing to follow our breaking news where Deputy John Willis was shot and killed tonight. Okay.
Marvin, thanks. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.